Hi, I'm Amy Romeo, and in today's video, I'm going to show you how to make this really pretty poinsettia leaf layered keychain using faux leather heat transfer vinyl and a Cricut. Now I've made this in a red colorway and also a white version for you to see, and I'm going to talk about the tools and materials we'll be using. I'll have links to everything for you, and I'll also leave you a link to the SVG for this project if you want to craft along with me. So the layers for the leaves here on the poinsettia are just different colors of faux leather. So I'm using a solid red, a plaid, and kind of a glossy glitter, but you can use whatever you have on hand. These will still be pretty even if they're all made with the same color of faux leather, because the leaves have some dimension, the little petals here, and it's just a really fun look on both sides. Now I'm making this project with my Cricut Maker, but you can use any of the current Cricut machines, including the Cricut Joy and the Cricut Joy Xtra, because they all cut faux leather using the standard fine point blade. So the faux leather will be the base, and that will be glued together. I'll show you how to do that using my favorite fabric glue. This is Beacon Fabri-Tac. You can use what you have on hand. And then for the little circle here around the rivet, there's a little bit of heat transfer vinyl detail here with that rivet in the center. And for that, I'm using some Caesar glitter heat transfer vinyl. This is an 8mm by 8mm rivet, and it's enamel colored, and it comes in a box with lots of different colored centers. I'll show you how to attach these. Now, if you didn't want to get the box that has the different colors, you could also buy 8mm rivets just in metallic colors, and then color the head of the rivet with some yellow nail polish. I'll use a hammer to attach those rivets, and the rivets come with some little tools. To press the heat transfer vinyl onto the center here of the flower, I'll use my Easy Press Mini with a heat pressing pad and also a cover sheet. Some other tools I'll be using: some blue painter's tape to help me get good cuts, a weeding tool, some curved scissors, some craft scissors, and then some jewelry making pliers to be able to attach the keychain hardware. And if you want to attach an optional faux suede tassel, you can use a 10mm jump ring for that. So let's go ahead and hop into Cricut Design Space. I'll show you how this SVG file is set up, and then we will get our mats cut out and our pretty poinsettia keychain assembled. Starting with a blank canvas in Cricut Design Space, you'll click on Upload and then Upload Image, and you'll browse to where the unzipped SVG file for this project is saved on your device. Click on it to select it and then click Open. You'll see a preview of the keychain shapes. Click Continue and then Upload. So here you can see all of the layers in this project stacked up, but what I want to do is ungroup them so I can pull the layers apart and just show you what we have going on here. So we have that top little flower layer both on the top and the bottom, and these are going to cut from that heat transfer vinyl of your choice. And then this is where we start with our faux leather layers. So we've got a smaller petal, a medium petal, and then this is the base shape. So it will cut from faux leather, and then we have this bridge piece, and this is where our key ring is going to go. So all of these faux leather layers are going to cut from whatever faux leather you'd like, and we have our heat transfer vinyl layer. Now they all have a hole that goes through them, and that's for that 8mm rivet. I did just want to mention, if you don't want to use a rivet, you don't have to. You can very easily hide the hole in all of these layers and then just glue the layers on your keychain together and then apply the heat transfer vinyl, and then you'll still have the same look, you just won't have that center rivet piece. And the way to do that, you'll just click on any one of these shapes after it's been ungrouped, and then click the contour feature here, and then you just want to click on that little hole. You can click on it here, or you can click on it here in the right layers panel. Click apply, and then that little hole disappears. So you would want to do that for every petal layer and the base layer on both the top and the bottom of the keychain. But I'm going to keep the layer, so I'm going to go ahead and click the Make It button. We're cutting our materials on a mat. And the first thing we want to do is go through and toggle the mirror button on for each of these mats, because faux leather and heat transfer vinyl cut in reverse. And then next, I'm just going to go and drag these shapes away from the edges of the mat a little bit and away from each other. And once that is done, I'm going to go back to the largest of the faux leather shapes. It looks like I need a piece of faux leather a little bigger than 3 inches wide and 7 inches tall. So I'll go through my scrap bin and see if I can use some scraps for this project. I'll go ahead and click continue. Now the faux leather mats will cut using the faux leather paper thin setting. If you don't have this setting bookmarked as a favorite like I do, you can click on browse all materials and search for it. Your heat transfer vinyl layer will cut using the manufacturer's recommended cut settings for the brand and type of heat transfer vinyl you are using. So I'll be using Caesar glitter heat transfer vinyl, which is a little on the thick side. So I like to use the glitter vinyl setting with default pressure, and then I repeat the cut one time for this product. But for this first faux leather mat that we're going to cut, faux leather paper thin, and then I always choose more pressure. That will help us get a really nice faux leather cut with our Cricut. Okay, let's go ahead and hop back to my overhead camera so we can prepare our mats and start to cut out our shapes. So I've trimmed a piece of the plaid faux leather, which is going to be the bottom layer of our fold over keychain. I trimmed it down to a size I saw in the mat preview screen where the shape will cut completely. I'm going to take this and turn it pretty side down, put it on my purple Strong Grip mat. I'm going to press it really well with my hands, and then I'm going to use some blue painter's tape. Now this can be reused, so I have some little pieces from a different project. So I'm just going to go ahead and tape this down on all sides. And the blue painter's tape is great because it will keep your faux leather from shifting on the mat while it's cutting, but it won't leave a residue on your faux leather or on your mat. So we'll just get all these little sides taped down, press really well. And I already have our faux leather paper thin cut setting with more pressure ready to go. So I'm just going to load my mat in the machine and begin the cut. So the faux leather mat has cut one time, and I always recommend using a sharp weeding tool and just lifting up the edge of your cut to see if it looks like the cut went all the way through. This one looks good, but if you need to repeat your cut, you can do that very easily on the Maker and Explore machines by just pressing that cut button again. That's going to pull the mat right back in and rerun the cut, and you can do that as many times as you want to as long as you don't unload the mat. But as I said, this one looks good, so I'm going to unload the mat and remove my shape. And if you flip it over on the back, it might be a little easier to see. You want to use a sharp weeding tool and pop out that center hole for the rivet. Now, if you didn't cut the rivet hole, then you won't have to do that. But here you can kind of get a preview of how this shape folds over, the key ring is inside, and this forms the base of the layers for the poinsettia. Now you also may notice that there are some large jagged petal shapes, and then there's some little smaller petal shapes, and I will show you how to get the second and third layers to perfectly line up. Those are actually little guides to show you where to place your second layer of petals. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to return to Design Space off camera, cut out the remaining 2 faux leather mats in the exact same way, and I'll also cut out that one heat transfer vinyl layer. And I'll do that off camera and get everything ready so I can spend more time on showing you how to glue and assemble the pretty keychains. Okay, so I've finished cutting out the different petal layers from my different faux leathers for that contrast. And I also cut the glitter heat transfer vinyl for the little centers of the flowers. Now, if you decided not to use the rivets, then you won't have any of these little center holes. You are still going to do the same step that I'm going to do now, which is to first press the heat transfer vinyl center onto the center of the smallest little petal circle here. So let me first go ahead and cut these apart. I have my Easy Press Mini all warmed up on that low setting. That's the first green line. If you're using a regular Easy Press or a heat press, I would set it to 265 degrees. So I'm just going to take one of these and just set my little petal down and line up those holes. If you don't have the holes, then you're just going to make sure that the centerpiece is in the center of your flower petals, just like that. And then I'm going to cover with a cover sheet like this. This is a Teflon sheet that I've trimmed smaller, and I'm just going to press with some gentle pressure and heat for about 10 seconds. I'll remove my little carrier sheet and I'm going to slowly peel away the clear carrier sheet. And if your vinyl lifts or bubbles up, then you can just place your carrier sheet right back down and press some more, but this actually looks pretty good. Now this little petal layer is warm and the little petals are going to start to curl up a little bit. Normally, if this was another faux leather keychain project, I would want this to stay nice and flat. So I would put it underneath my heat pressing pad to let it cool flat. But because these are flower petals, it is nice to get a little bit of lift and dimension. So I'm going to let it curl and just set that aside, return and do the other top petal layer with that heat transfer vinyl center. So there's another one. Again, I'm just going to kind of encourage that to curl up a little bit. If you don't want your petals to curl up, then definitely put them underneath your heat pressing pad so they can curl nice and flat. I'm actually going to encourage that curling just a little bit on the middle petal layers. So I'm just going to cover those and apply some heat, maybe just 4 or 5 seconds. These will be warm, so be careful. And we'll just put those to the side as well. So the next step is to attach the keychain hardware to the base layer of our keychain and then apply some glue and let this dry. So let me show you how we do that. So I'm using a keyring hardware that has a large split ring keyring, a little swivel at the bottom that will be able to hang a charm or a tassel, and then a large lobster claw clasp. If you don't have one of these, you can absolutely use just any keychain. What I like to do is put this on first. So once we've glued this together, we're not struggling trying to get the key ring on the faux leather and maybe scratching it up. So this is pretty easy. We're just going to roll up our little faux leather shape and thread that through the key ring. And now the key ring is on the center part. I'm going to flip it over, put it down on my work surface, and open up my beacon Fabri-Tac. And then I'm going to apply glue all over the back of one side of the keychain. Now I don't want to get it on this bridge piece here. I just want to get it on the actual back of the flower. So kind of get up and down all of these little petals. Go around that little hole. Now don't worry if a little bit of this glue kind of seeps out of the side. We can just wipe it up very easily. It's one of the reasons why I love this glue. So now that I have glue all over just this back side here, I'm going to fold over the top of the keychain, keep the hardware out of the way, just fold this over, press those two sides down. Then you can pick it up, kind of flip it over side to side. Here I'm just kind of wiping up a little bit of that glue, just like that. Now you may notice that when you first glue this that there's a little bit of separation still between your layers. And that's because the real way to get this to be glued nice and firmly together is by placing it underneath something heavy like a book for about an hour. So that's what we're going to do. Once you have all your petals lined up with the glue in between, just take your nice heavy book and lay that right on top. And I'm going to let that dry for 1 hour and then we'll come back and I'll show you the rest of the project. So my keychain shape has come out from underneath the heavy book, and now we have a nice seamless edge all the way around on the outside of our faux leather keychain shape. And if there's any glue, again, you can just wipe it away, but that looks pretty good on both sides. Now, if you are not using the center rivet, then all of your little petals will not have a center hole, and you will have this smaller layer petal and the medium layer petal. And what you would do now is just apply some glue here in the center and you would glue your little petals to the base and do that on both sides. But I want to show you how to layer these petals with the rivet. So I've got my 8mm by 8mm rivet with that pretty yellow enamel center ready to go. And the one part of the rivet has a post and one part just has a cap. So I'll set the cap aside for now. I'm going to take the rivet here, pick up one of the smallest petal centers, the one with the heat transfer vinyl, just thread that on to the rivet. Isn't that pretty? And then I'm going to take one of the middle layers and thread that on as well. I like to stagger them. And then what we're going to do is put this grouping onto the keychain base. So just thread that through on the keychain base. And you'll notice that this bottom red layer does not line up with those strange little points that I mentioned earlier. So all we're going to do is swing the red layer around and around and around until all of the little points line up. So it might take a few tries to just go around. And there we go. I think we have it. So this one down here, it covers this weird little point. See right there? Covers that point, it covers this point, it hits all the points. So just keep rotating that middle layer until all of these odd little points on the base layer are covered, and then you know you've got your layers lined up nicely. Now I'm going to hold this middle layer and just sort of adjust that top one. Then I'll flip this over, and now we're going to do the reverse. So I'm going to start with the middle layer, put that on. Let me see if I can show you. See, there's a point here, there's a point here. I'm just going to rotate this around until everything lines up. And let me see. Let me go a little more. And there we have it. And now we'll put the top on. Now make sure that this is the way you want it to look. And then we're just going to take our little cap and push that cap down on the center of the post. And then you have that on both sides. Isn't that pretty? So I did not glue these petals down, again, because I want the lift, but you could certainly do that if you wanted to. And honestly, you don't even need to hammer the rivet if you don't want to. You could just apply some glue at the base, and as the post goes through, it'll hit the glue and it'll be glued on both sides. But let me show you quickly how to attach that little rivet. So the rivets usually come with a strike plate. This is going to be underneath our rivet as we hammer. And then they also come with a small tool like this. One side is concave, and this is going to protect that pretty enamel finish on the rivet head. And then this side is flat so you can hammer. So all we're going to do is take our rivet. The rivet underneath here is going to sit on top of that strike plate. Then we're going to put the concave or scooped part here, put that right on top of the pretty rivet. And then with a garage hammer, we're just going to hammer maybe 6 to 8 times. So when you do that, you'll see you get a tightening between all of the layers, and that just accentuates the really pretty lift between all the petals. Isn't that pretty? Okay. So now last thing we need to do is attach any optional charms or tassels. I have my jewelry making pliers. I'm just going to open those up. Open up my jump ring, attach my little tassel, hook it onto the swivel, or you could hook it directly onto your key ring. And close it back up. And that's it. Isn't that pretty and festive? So here's another look at the 2 different colorways that I made using this poinsettia keychain pattern. I really hope you like this project and you're going to make some of these yourself. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.